My name's Tamara Stanger. I'm the chef of Cotton and Copper in Tempe, Arizona. Today I am going to be making Huun Ga'i Fried Rabbit organ meat. And this recipe, it's kind of a childhood thing, loving rabbit and the parts that are usually thrown away. So I thought it was interesting to find a way to use that, and using the Huun Ga'i because I like grinding my spices, and grinding that into my spices just develops more flavor, and there's a pop of fresh corn flavor that you don't necessarily get with ground cornmeal. And it's going to be accompanied with plum jam. So I'm going to start by making the breading for the rabbit. So here I have the spices. This is black peppercorn, whole cardamom, coriander seeds, fennel seeds, and caraway. And this is just a really fragrant flavor. It goes really well with corn. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to put the whole thing in a saute pan, and I am going to toast it over dry heat. By doing this, you change the flavor just slightly. It adds just so much more robust flavor into your recipe. So I toast this until you start to smell it. Once it's fragrant, you know it's ready to grind. So I do this every time I'm using certain spices like whole cumin seeds or peppercorns. I love them mixed with coriander. I will always toast it, even juniper berries. Toast it first, then grind it. So you want to make sure not to burn it. Obviously, if you burn your spices, it's going to be bitter. Nobody wants bitter spices. And just move it around so they don't stick and burn on one side. This will take probably about 2 minutes. So I can start to smell, and most of it's the fennel and caraway coming through. So I know it's about there, and then you see a little bit of smoke rising off it. So I will turn off the heat. Over here, I have a mortar and pestle, or molcajete, I like to use to grind the spices. I use this and not a spice grinder. You can use a spice grinder, but I prefer this way because the essential oils that come out of it when you start grinding. So I just start the process of grinding it. And with these, you can just do a circular motion and it will break down pretty fast. So already I can smell all the wonderful fragrances coming out of those. And that is going to flavor our rabbit. Of course, you can just use salt and pepper. That's delicious too, but not as delicious. So now that's mostly ground. You can go really fine if you want. I don't feel like that's really necessary. I am just going to pour that into a bowl, and then quickly I am going to toast some Huun Ga'i. Probably don't need that much in the pan too. Just lightly, it will help grind it down and help bring out some of the flavors. Fire is probably your most important tool because of flavor development. Nothing like cooking over an open flame. So just a light, quick toast on that. Kind of warm it. And then that's gonna go into the molcajete. So this, I tap it to kind of pop them open. So you don't have to use the whole kernels. You can use cornmeal, or you can use kernels that have been broken down. I prefer this just because organ meats are so soft that they need a little texture, I think. And so I like to have a little texture in the breading, a little bit of crunch. Really makes it more appetizing. Now, if you have a mill, you can just mill it that way too. That's probably a A lot quicker, but if you're like me, the whole grinding process is just really relaxing. It's a good time to think. Plus, you can feel that love in your food. At least I think you can feel that love in your food. So this is just a quick grind. You're gonna wanna grind it a lot finer than that, but for time purposes, we're gonna add that in. And then next, let's see, I'm looking at we got a half a cup of flour. If you can get Pima flour, Pima wheat, that's recommended. But other than that, a light all-purpose flour works. Pima cornmeal. Sorry, I forgot one thing. I do add a little bit of cornmeal into the recipe right here, and then just a little salt. And so this right here is going to be the breading for our rabbit. Okay. So now I am going to break down the rabbit, show you how that's done real quick. Get a cutting board over here. So right here I have the organ meats. There's lots of different stuff. So the kidneys usually have a bunch of fat on them. Rabbit kidneys are really soft. The livers, and then the little hearts. So really all you need to do is just remove this little extra stuff at the end. So I usually just slice that off, and then I will just cut a little bit down the center without completely cutting in half, and just peel that open. So it opens like that. If it's a larger heart, you'll have a little bit of trim out, but these are so soft, I don't feel like it's necessary. And then with the kidneys, these are really delicate, but again, I'm just gonna trim off some of this fat. And then I'm just gonna cut it and open it a little bit, just for ease of frying. And then with these, there's a little connective tissue, so I'm just gonna remove that from the middle. This is probably the most delicious part of the rabbit, I think personally. But of course I grew up on liver, so maybe my palate's a little bit different than people that did not grow up on liver. So opening some of those. You don't have to go too deep into it, just remove most of the fat off. That in there. And you can do this with other animals too. If you have chickens, I don't like the chicken kidneys, but the livers and the chicken livers are great, and chicken hearts you can do. And we've also worked with bison hearts. Take a little bit more breaking down, but they're also super delicious. Almost done here. Some liver. Okay, now that we have this, set that here. This. Take your cornmeal mixture. Slightly salt. You don't need too much because you have salt in your mixture. And then we are just going to just take these pieces and just slightly bread. So we're going to double bread it and take these, set them aside, and then we are going to mix some eggs. Will you hand me a bowl? Sorry. crack some eggs. About 3 eggs. And then just a quick whisk until it's frothy. You can add a little bit of stock into this, like rabbit stock, chicken stock if you want. But it's not totally necessary. And then we're gonna dip that again into here. And then back into our corn mixture. And that just gives it a thicker coating, makes it stick on there better. You don't have to use egg, you could use buttermilk too, that's also delicious. I prefer egg for this. And then there's your rabbits. Wash my hands real fast. Okay, so before we start frying, we're gonna start our plum jam real quick. So over here, I have these plum skins, and that can be made by just skinning plum and dehydrating. I like to use these because the color, and also they're very tart. They added some just amazing flavor. So I'm gonna start by using an onion. You can use any sweet onion. If you have shallots on hand, like I have today, we're gonna use those. So let's see. So just a simple prep. These are going to get blended up at the end. So if you don't feel like mincing it, you really don't have to mince it. I find it easier when you're doing a sauce like this to just slice. It makes the process go faster, and it's delicious. We're just gonna peeling the skins off. So depending on how many onions you like, you can either go small or big. I like to use onions in jam just because it makes it a little bit less sweet and more savory. So we're just going to start it with 2. For the recipe it calls for 6, but it's for a lot smaller onions. So this should be efficient. So I have a little duck fat over here. I'm just gonna pour about a tablespoon into this pan. Turn that on. Let that start heating up. And we are gonna use our plums. This also calls for some vermouth, or you can use grape juice, like white grape juice, or you could use white wine, whatever you have on hand. A little apple cider vinegar and honey for our sweetness. I also like to use mesquite syrup. So adding these into the pan. So we're just gonna sweat those just a little bit to get the flavors. Let that go for a minute. I also have chiltepines, which is the mother of all chilies. These little things pack a lot of heat. So I don't need to use a whole lot, but I like heat, so I'm gonna use a spoonful. For some people, maybe only 1. So now I'm just gonna deglaze these onions with about a cup of the vermouth. So it's about a cup. stir. About a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. About a 1/4 cup of honey. Big handful of these plum skins. Salt. And then these chiltepine seeds. Let's see. And then basically all I want to do is rehydrate. So we already have the good flavors from the onions. So once these skins are rehydrated, you could either not do anything with them and eat them as is, or you can blend them up in a Vitamix, a Robocoup, or whatever food processor you work with to make it smooth like a jam. This will take approximately, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes if you want them really soft. So meanwhile, we'll just reduce the heat a little bit. Meanwhile, we are gonna fry this rabbit. So I'm just turning up the heat a little bit. I need it in between 350 and 375. And let it drop just a little bit. So we're just going to let that heat for a moment. Once you put them in, it's gonna lose heat real fast. So you just have to adjust. Their skins are starting to really soften up. These are gonna add so much beautiful color into this and flavor. And I feel like the tartness from the skins just goes so well with the fried rabbit. Absolutely delicious. Of course, you can use all kinds of different stuff. Wild grape skins are amazing. You can also use mango or not fruit at all. It's up to you. All right. We're getting our temps up to where we want them. Turn it down just a little bit. All right, I have the rabbit right here. You don't want to overcrowd it too much, but we're just going to do a nice big handful. Drop that in there. Be really careful not to splash. And then use some tongs to separate that in there so they don't stick together. You can do it in a thin layer too and just turn as you go as it browns both sides. Just a really fast, easy way. I mean, honestly, you don't want to overcook these, so maybe 2 minutes tops. See, they're already starting to brown. Make sure you have a plate lined with some towels. Yes, getting some beautiful color. So those are done. Super fast and crispy. So I'm just going to remove them and let them drain. So beautiful. Thing with organ meats, you really don't want to overcook them. They'll get tough and that's not as delicious as they can be. Those are removed. We are going to turn off the heat on that, and it looks like our plum is just beautiful how we want it. So I can go ahead and remove this too right now, and we're just gonna blend it up and then we're gonna plate. Now for the best part, we're gonna start preparing our dish. You don't need anything crazy, just a plate and of course a little bowl for your sauce. So as you see right, here's our sauce. I didn't break it down too much. I like texture. So we're just gonna put it in our little dish. See how beautiful and pink that turned? That's all the plum. A thing I really love to do too is, you know, summer's ending. A lot of the summer fruits are gonna go out of season like stone fruits. So dehydrate them, and then you can bring it back just like this. So we're just gonna set that off to the side on our dish. Right here, look at how beautiful those are. Our crispy rabbit. So I'm just gonna put them on the plate. You do not have to be a crazy plating artist to do this dish, and it's still gonna look insanely good. So I'm just gonna place that around. I mean, to me, if you have a family gathering or you go somewhere, this is the kind of snack I like to serve. And then I have some fresh rosemary, and we're just gonna place that on there. I mean, you can rub it a little bit to get some of the oils smelling really good, because that's like rosemary and cornmeal. Amazing. So we're gonna put 2 of those on there, and then I have a little bit, I'm reaching over, a little bit of basil flowers. So we're gonna put a couple of those on there, just for some more herbs. And then that's our dish. How beautiful is that? And here's our dish.